Hello everybody, it's Shaderock. Welcome back to the Twilight Princess manga videos. You might be wondering, hey, you said it was gonna be every week. What the hell happened? Well, it's a bit complicated what happened. So, for those who have not been keeping up on the Twitch side, my GameCube gave out last week. This has led me to have to replay up to where we were in Twilight Princess, go through other methods. I go over it a little bit more on the stream for the gameplay itself. But during that time, when I was dealing with all that, I did not have time to record the next video for the Twilight Princess manga. But I did script it. So with that though, we're going to continue on with talking about the Twilight Princess manga. Continuing on with Volume 2. Now, Volume 2 does not have as many massive departures at first, mostly because of the fact Volume 2 is, in terms of the content we'll be covering today, is Link's first journey into the realm of Twilight and the Forest Temple. And there are some parts I have a lot to say about, and other parts that not really too much. So it's much like what happened in Volume 1. So without further ado, let's get started and start talking about Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess. The start of Volume 2 is another odd one. Just like Volume 1, it shows an event that we would not be seeing in the game until much later. Like, to give you an idea of where this is in the game, we're almost to it in our playthrough, and we just beat the third temple. Instead, though, we see these events here in Volume 2. Volume 2 opens up at a mysterious Colosseum, where we see a man chained up, and they are administering the punishment of the demon thief. The King of Hyrule is banishing to the realm of Twilight Ganondorf, and we get this haunting imagery as he is struck by a sword and sent to the realm of Twilight, of all the muscle and everything burning away from his body. It is quite the fucking image. And it is amazing to see. It's especially interesting because of a difference in the game. Like I said, we do see these events in the game, but the King of Hyrule is not present in any way, shape, or form. This directly ties these events to the royal family, which is appropriate because we're not seeing these events in real time. Instead, these events are being watched through a basin of water in the garden by a young Princess Zelda, where her one mentor is telling her that she should not be looking at this. These are events from the long distant past, and explains that evil was sealed in the Twilight Realm, and that the evil that was sealed there is not compatible with their world of light. And as he explains this, it fades out, and we see her in her room in the realm of Twilight, before cutting to a beast with blue eyes being told to wake up, and we see Link as a wolf. And of course he proceeds to have an understandable freak out for having 4 legs and being a wolf. But he is asked, "Are you awake?" And in the corner of the room is a small imp. I will say, I do love the way that they draw Midda's hair. It is almost always in these jagged angles, and it looks really good. It especially shows the fact that how her hair works, because of the fact Midda can use it to grab things, and we'll be seeing a lot of that as we go. Like I said, there's not really much to talk about here. The biggest change is still the fact that we see the execution of Ganondorf, and we also see a young Zelda learning about the realm of Twilight, which are not events that happen at all. Well, one is an event that happens, but is gone into more detail. The other is an event that doesn't happen at all. Because in the original game, we do not see backstories for these characters, and that's one of the biggest strengths that this manga has, that it adds backstory. But with that, let's get started talking about. For this chapter, we open up with Link being confronted with reality that he is a wolf. And yeah, he doesn't take it too well, because, I mean, how would you react if I were suddenly turned into a wolf? He freaks out for a good while about how it can't be him, and Midna essentially threatens him, like, she could turn him back. She knows how to get him to be back to human, she can help him do all this stuff, but he has to listen to her in every command she gives. The first one she gives is to sit. And this is a good point to talk about. Midna's a lot more, I would like to say sadistic to Link in these first few chapters. She does treat him as beneath her for these initial encounters, unlike in the games where, don't get me wrong, she's very demanding of Link and she has a harsh tone towards him, but she never commands him to do things like sit. And well, Link, after she breaks his chain, like in the game, Link goes to bite her and does threaten that he'll sink his fangs to her. I'm not saying I will kill you if you keep this up. And Midna's response is to grab him and electrocute him. Before telling him that she does not care about the realm of light. It would not even bother her to kill Link. This is a very dramatic difference compared to the Midna we saw back in Twilight. And she's got a much rougher personality here. And just ends it with saying, "You're my dog now, get on your feet." Which I'm sure there are some people who would love to hear that. But yeah, she is a lot harsher towards Link. But let's just say the other end is going to be a lot more rewarding. But we'll talk about that as we go. The next chapter starts with us in the sewers. Much like how the escape from Hyrule Castle is pretty much exactly the same, except Link does not need it spelled out to him that he's in Hyrule Castle. When he sees the tattered patterns on the ramparts, he knows this is Hyrule Castle, and he wants to know what happened. As they approach the tower that we know Zelda is trapped in, Midna tells him that the one who committed the worst crime in all of Hyrule is confined here. The one who did this to your world. And as they enter, they meet Zelda. And she looks at Link and realizes that he is a human turned into a beast, much like she does in the game. I don't have a lot to say about this chapter. There is not much different, just Zelda has more dialogue than she does in the game. And it's mostly the fact that she knows that Link is a wolf. And, well, Link has the realization that this is Princess Zelda, the princess of the land that him and all of his friends were meant to protect in the future. And here she is, giving away their kingdom to the forces of Zant. So there's not really much to say on this chapter, just because there's not really much different. It is almost identical to the game, just with more input from Link. The next chapter starts with the story about how the Kingdom of Hyrule fell. Zelda confronting Zant, and him attacking her people to get her to surrender. Though, unlike the games where we don't really get to see what he does to the guards, we just see her drop the sword and surrender, it's a lot more brutal here. We see the Shadow Beast crushing the Royal Guard, the army. I don't know if it's the guard or the army, but either way, they're getting crushed and telling Zelda, do not surrender, do not turn Hyrule over to these monsters. But she does. She does not want to see her people suffer anymore. And as Hyrule is bathed in twilight, the people turn into spirits, unaware that their kingdom has fallen. And Midna's response to all this is to just say that she hates all this whining, that some people find the realm of Twilight beautiful, and that they're going to stop Zant, and that Zelda needs to tell them where the shadow crystals in Faron Woods. The spirits do not tell them where the few shadows are located like they do in the games. Instead, they are told by Zelda where the first one is, and from there they go on their journey. which is an interesting change. But after they are told, as they get ready to leave, they are confronted by shadow beasts, and we get actually a very big difference. We see Link go almost feral, and I love this art for him. Just the fact you can make out his eyes, the fur just going everywhere. It is a bit of a disturbing scene, if I'm going to be honest, just because of the fact that this is not really something we associate with Link, and it's something I really enjoy about this manga. So, bit of a shorter chapter here. This one is mostly dedicated to the stunning artwork of Link fighting as a wolf, in his feral state taking down shadow beasts, which surprises Midna, as shadow beasts are treated as a much larger threat in this than they are in the games. In the games, they're kind of just treated as standard enemies. But here, they're always treated as a massive threat. And Midna just watched Link in like a berserk state take them down. And Zelda tells her to stay with Link, and she just goes like, I don't have to. I'm going to use him. Your world is not my concern. So the same spiel she's been giving this whole time. And Link goes to walk off, and she's like, no, you're going to listen to me. We have a deal. And Link wanted to be somewhere where Zelda couldn't see him. And he agrees to work with Midna, but not as her servant. They will be on equal footing. And she kind of laughs at him and says fine, and teleports him away, much like what happens in the game. Like, Midna is actually very surprised though that he's got all this confidence. Actually, if I remember correctly, was the confidence arrogant? Yeah, the confident arrogant comment is towards Link, over him saying like we're going to be on equal footing here, that we're not going to have this dynamic of you're in charge. But from there, though, we have an interesting cut. We move away from Midna and Link and follow Ilia, and she's still with the king of the King Bublin, who is giving her this whole speech because like she is understandably scared out of her fucking mind. And he tells her, like, she's calling out for Link still, and he just goes off on her that he is dead. I killed him. Why do you keep calling out his name? And he just does not understand, because her whole attitude disregards the one law he believes to be true. And that is that the weak obey the strong or they disappear. It is how they've operated. He does not understand any other way. And it is weird to say he has character traits. He has beliefs. Because he doesn't speak in the games. He's just an encounter. He's just a wall. Here he has conviction, beliefs, and opinions on shit. But there's not very much else for us to say there, because like I said, this is a bit of a shorter chapter. A lot of the differences come from the fact that King Bublin is doing shit and getting dialogue. Now that we've left the realm of Twilight and we're returning back to the realm of light, we actually start with Ook, a boss monkey who is leading a group in Farron Woods. You may recognize him as the first mini-boss of the Forest Temple. Here we get a story about his daily life, where he keeps the monkeys from fighting each other, he keeps them all in line. And we see as the twilight descends, the parasite land on his head, and him turning into what we will see later. But coming back to Link and Midna, they arrive in the spring, and the Spirit Ordon explains everything about how the other lake spirits have had their light stolen, and it has been shrouded in twilight. And Midna reveals to Link that she's in his shadow. All pretty simple stuff here, a lot of stuff that we already know. The interesting thing is the lake spirits and their restoring the light is handled very differently in the manga, but we'll get to that in the next actually the next chapter. Link asks Midna to teach him how to fight in the realm of Twilight, and she says she'll do it. For 100 rupees. And Link goes to storm off, but as he does, he goes in the village, and Russell sees him. And because Russell was getting ready to go out to go look for the kids again. He was going to see if he could find Mallow, Tallow, Ilya, and Colin. He's still injured, though. That injury happened when they were in the woods earlier looking for them. His wife tries to stop him, but he sees Link, and he's ready to fight to defend his home. Much to Link's disappointment that to them, they don't see a friend. They just see a wild animal. And of course, just like in the games, the animals know who he is. They can tell he's Link. The other people can't, because humans don't see them the same way. But as Link goes to leave, Russell says that the eyes, he feels like he's seen them before, but it's ridiculous. It's a wolf. Link, regaining his conviction, goes to the gate to Twilight to be left through the veil, and Midna pulls him through, much like we've seen before in the games. The giant hand comes out, grabs him, and rips him into the veil. As they're in there, he talks about how his head's a little foggy, and Midna explains it's because of the difference between the realm of light and the realm of Twi. But as they're doing this, a boomerang comes flying at them. And King Ook asks, "Who disturbs my territory?" Yes, he is an active threat as they enter the realm of Twilight. He is not in the dungeon. He is loose. He's not a spirit. Which is an interesting change, and we'll get to some more details on it in the next chapter. Ook challenges Link upon seeing him, telling that Farron Woods are his territory and that he will kill all intruders. Ook has a much more menacing menacing role than he does in the game. As in the game, it's kind of a comedic fight of like, haha, I knocked the baboon off the pillars and then smack his ass with my sword. In the manga, the Gale Boomerang, because of Ook giving into the shadows, creates fire. He sets the fucking woods on fire. And actually manages to beat Link. Mostly because Link is distracted trying to save the animals who are on fire. And Link realizes that if he doesn't give up, that more innocents are just going to get caught in this crossfire. So he gives up. He even thinks to himself, if I was human, if I had a sword, I could stop that boomerang, both fang and claw. He's got nothing. And he gives up. And King Ook drags him to the forest temple, demanding, who is the king of the forest? That the mighty wolf has been taken down by him with his boomerang. As he's bragging, Midna manages to get close to Link and tells him to open your eye. Specifically, she's teaching him how to use the sense to see the Twilight parasites, the insects. And as Link manages to destroy, Link sees them all, destroys them all, pretty basic stuff. Midna smacks Ook around a little bit, telling her that is her back to ride, not his. And as they're all gone, the hero of Twi finally dons his green tunic. With Link turned back to human, we see Midna for the first time gets to see what the hero of Twilight actually looks like. And he says her name before she spontaneously combusts. Reminder, Midna cannot exist in the world of light. So, yeah, it's a problem. Link tells her to hide in his shadow, and he's actually very concerned for her because of the fact that he just saw her catch fire and scream. But, they don't have long to think about it as the Gale Boomerang comes to Link and explains the same thing explained to us in the game. It is a fairy of winds that inhabits the boomerang. And this thing will see almost little to no use. It is one of the weirder decisions that they still give this whole speech about the Gale Boomerang being being inhabited by a fairy of the winds, because they do nothing with it. It is a weird decision. This is something that actually could have been cut. Especially because like a lot of the other dungeon weapons are actually cut from the manga. They show up in some way, shape, or form, but they are not something that Link brings with him, unlike the games. But as he follows after Ook, well, they've got a bigger problem. As Ook summons the Twilight Parasite, Diababa. And it is not, while it was an easy fight for us in the game, it is not nearly as easy for this Link. He acknowledges that the Ordon's sword has come back to him, that he's ready to fight it. But he also is vulnerable to its poisonous gas. And as he is fighting it, he can't cut through the roots, they're too thick. But then he sees the eye, and he hears, "You too must become Shadow." Almost as if he feels the will of Zant. And he decides, say, screw it. He grabs that eye, cuts it off, and screams at, "I'm here to stop his plan." Link's declaration that he is here to stop his plans, he takes that opening he created from cutting off the eye to run Diababa through, killing it. As the giant plant monster breaks apart into the multiple pieces of shadow, they form together to create the fused shadow, or as they are called in the manga, the pieces of the shadow crystal. Midna takes it, explaining this is what she was looking for. Link also sees that the Twilight Parasite that was, or the Shadow Mite, as it's called, that was on Ook's head has fallen off and died, freeing him from its control. And as he goes to check on Ook, after Minda says that it will save the world or destroy it, because, few shadows are dangerous. But Ook actually gets visibly upset by Link walking towards him, because of the fact Link realizes it's the same thing that happened with the humans. They just saw a wolf. They don't see a wolf, they see a human. But he accepts this is the law of nature. He then proceeds to see the spirit of Farron, who explains a bit about what the fuck just happened, including what the green garments are, that he is the hero chosen by the gods, that the green garments are a symbol of their trusts. Midna appears shortly after it's done explaining about Link's role and chosen by the gods, and she says to him, like, you must feel pretty special being chosen by the gods. And Link is not happy about it, because he's been running around with no idea what he's going on, running around on all fours and just stuck fighting. And he asks, what about any of that makes him a hero? And that is a question that the Twilight Link will actually have to go through for the rest of the series. Though, I would like to point out that the shadow at his feet is slightly different than the one who's here. In particular, it's the boots look a little different, if I'm correct. It definitely seems more confident. And I have a theory as to who that shadow is, but that statement of what about any of that makes me a hero is the ending line for Volume 2. Now, Volume 2 did not start with a lot of differences. Like I said, there is not really much that they changed in terms of the time in Hyrule Castle, because there's not really much to change. It serves its role well. The most they changed was actually just take away the role of the spirit and give it to Zelda, which is perfectly fine. But then from there, Link going berserk and killing the Shadow Beasts is just a bit of an insane thing to see. And then from the fact that Ook's given a little bit of history and we're starting to establish the role of King Bublin in the story. The Forest Temple, we pretty much do nothing with. The fact that the Gala Boomerang now sets things on fire was an interesting choice. I don't know why it was done, but hey, it happened. But now that we're setting off proper on the adventure and leaving the woods, things are going to get a lot more interesting. Volume 3 is quite a big change from the book, from the game, and it has some actually genuinely amazing scenes, and also is going to bring in some characters that are great to talk about. As we go through, there are going to be more and more differences. The story does start pretty similar. The dungeons are the things that are compressed the most, just because of the fact that they don't really do the dungeons in the traditional sense of, like, you know, Link going through, finding chests and keys. None of that's really happening. It's just dealing with the problem in the dungeon. And that's not going to change, though there is one dungeon that goes through a change that, fuck, I'm so looking forward to talking about. If you enjoyed this, though, as a reminder, we are streaming the game over on Twitch. That playlist is going to be linked here. If you have never played Zelda Twilight Princess or read this manga, I would honestly say watch the gameplay playthrough. It is going to have some pretty good content, and you'll see why I've been praising this one so much. As I've been harping on with the last few video and the first video and the last few streams, I do not want this to replace either experience, though the game playthrough is going to be a much more complete experience because of the fact, well, it's just the nature of streaming games. And also, as I've said multiple times, goddamn Nintendo, please put this on Twitch! But with that, I, as always, encourage you to read this manga. It is really well written. And I hope you all enjoy the rest of your day.